Today, when we say the name Sylvester Stallone, we think of him as an iconic action star that has been entertaining us for decades in a variety of movies, and in some ways has always been the true Hollywood rival to Schwarzenegger films, since they pretty much were the biggest action stars of the time. At least for me back in the 90s, I was dreaming of them pairing up in a movie, but that wouldn't happen until decades later. So, who is Sylvester Stallone exactly? Well, he's an actor, director, screenwriter, producer, and artist who rose to fame with the movie Rocky back in 1976. But getting to that first starring role wasn't an easy journey. Michael Sylvester Gardencio Stallone was born on July 6, 1946 in Hell's Kitchen, which is a neighborhood of Manhattan, New York. Complications during labor made the doctor use 2 pairs of forceps during his birth. Misuse of these forceps accidentally severed a nerve and caused paralysis in parts of Stallone's face. This accident is what gave Stallone his snarling look and slurred speech. Sylvester's rise to fame was very gradual, and he worked for many years as an extra or side character in films with sizable budgets. His interest in theater, both acting and writing, started while attending an American college in Switzerland. At the time, to make money, he was working as a gym teacher and dorm bouncer. There he got a brief uncredited background actor role as a restaurant customer in the sports drama Downhill Racer that was released in 1969. Back in New York and completely broke, he accepted to work in a small budget feature film called The Party at Kitty and Studs, which was released in 1970. For this movie, he got paid $200 for 2 days of work. The reason he did this movie was because he had just been evicted from his apartment and found himself homeless for several days. In the actor's words, it was either do that movie or rob someone because I was at the end, the very end, of my rope. The same movie was re-released years later under the name Italian Stallion in order to cash on Stallone's newfound fame and nickname used in Rocky. During his first years in New York, Stallone took on many odd jobs, including being a cleaner at a zoo, an usher at a theater where he also scalped tickets, but eventually got caught by the manager and was fired. At the same time, he was auditioning unsuccessfully and also started taking an interest in writing seriously by studying many of the writings of Edgar Allan Poe. By 1972, and continuing to struggle, Sylvester was on the verge of quitting. Still holding onto his dreams, Stallone accepted a part in a small play that a friend of his invited him to partake in. An agent attending one of the performances offered him a role in a movie called The Lords of Flatbush. The plot of the movie revolves around a group of street teenagers in leather jackets from the Flatbush neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York. The movie had a stop-and-go production from 1972 to 1974 due to budget restraints. This movie won him his first critical acclaim as an actor for his co-starring role as Stanley Rosiello. In mid-1973, he managed to book his first official starring role in the independent film No Place to Hide, where he plays a man who is associated with the New York urban terrorist movement. Years later, the film was recut to make Stallone the main star and retitled Rebel, and again was re-edited from outtakes in 1990 as well as newly shot matching footage and then redubbed into an award-winning parody of itself titled A Man Called Rainbow. The 1970s had quite a few other films with minor roles or even extra work featuring Sylvester Stallone. Some supporting role parts were in Farewell My Lovely, Capone, and Death Race 2000, but nothing too noteworthy. His real rise to fame happened when the movie Rocky was released in 1976. Stallone wrote the screenplay in 3.5 days after watching the championship match between Muhammad Ali and Chuck Wepner. Other inspirations for the film included characteristics of the real-life boxers Rocky Marciano and Joe Frazier. During the screenwriting days, Stallone was forced to sell his dog because he just didn't have enough money to feed himself and his family. At this time, Stallone was represented by Film Artists Management Enterprises fame, who was able to submit the script to various producers in Hollywood. Even United Artists saw incredible potential in the script but wanted to cast well-established stars such as Robert Redford or Burt Reynolds, as well as others in the leading role. Stallone's agents Rumar and Kubik insisted that Sylvester Stallone star in it, to the point of issuing an ultimatum. Stallone in a later interview said that he would never have forgiven himself had the film become a success with somebody else in the lead. He also knew that if the production budget was kept low enough, the United Artists producers had the power to get it greenlit. Eventually, they agreed by keeping the initial filming budget to $1,075,000 with a further $100K spent to producers and a whopping $4.2 million on advertising costs. The gamble paid off as the movie grossed $225 million in global box office receipts. In case you haven't seen Rocky, well, it tells the story of Rocky Balboa, a southpaw boxer who primarily fights in small gyms and works as a collector for a loan shark. After meeting a boxing promoter, he finds out that the heavyweight boxing world champion, Apollo Creed, is seeking to spice his boxing career up by giving a local contender a chance to challenge him. Reluctant at first, Rocky agrees to fight Apollo, which will earn him $150K. After weeks of unorthodox training, he gets himself in shape to fight the world champion under the guidance of Mickey Goldmill, a former bantamweight fighter who turned trainer. A deep bond forms between the two of them. At the same time, Rocky begins a romantic relationship with Adrian Penino, who works at a local pet shop. The ending of the movie culminates in a fight between Rocky and Creed. This movie single-handedly jump-started Stallone's career, earning him nominations for 10 awards, including Best Actor and Best Original Screenplay at the 49th Academy Awards. Rocky did win Best Picture, Best Directing, and Best Film Editing. Following the success of this movie, Stallone made his directorial debut in 1978 with the film Paradise Alley, which tells the story of three Italian-American brothers living in the slums of 1940s New York City, trying to help each other with one's wrestling career using one's brother's promotional skills and another brother's con artist tactics. That same year, he starred in Fist, a social drama where he works as a warehouse worker, loosely based on James Hoffa, who becomes involved in the labor union leadership. Since the first Rocky was such a success, in 1979 he wrote, directed, and starred in Rocky II. The whole Rocky saga is such an epic thing since it has spawned 5 Rocky-centered sequels, including 3 spin-off sequels entitled Creed, totaling a series of 8 movies, which has lasted from 1976 to 2018, with talks of future Rocky Creed sequels to come and even a prequel TV series for streaming services. All of these future movies series are still in early development stages and might never get made, but I still praise Stallone for being able to bank one movie's success and make a long-lasting franchise out of it. Through the years, the film series has grossed more than $1.7 billion at the worldwide box office. The first, third, and seventh movies received Academy Award nominations too. Even though Sylvester Stallone had an enormous struggle in his early days, the fact that he was so poor and even homeless for a little while might actually have been the push that he needed in order to succeed. They do say that in order to succeed, sometimes we need to hit rock bottom so that we can get the hunger to climb back up. Also, on a note of the dog that he had to sell during his screenwriting time, well, as soon as he sold the screenplay for Rocky, the first thing that he did was go back to the man who bought his dog for $40 and bought his Bull Mastiff Butkus back. Knowing that Stallone really loved his dog, the man took advantage of him and sold it back to him for $15,000. Well, this concludes the first part of my Stallone retrospective. In this one, I simply wanted to focus on his younger years until his rise to fame with Rocky. In the second video, I will focus on Sylvester's career in the 1980s and 1990s and look at some of the other franchises that he came up with, as well as talk about some of his most popular films from that era. Please be sure to subscribe and hit the like button. As always, I had a great time filming this. Leave me a comment too. What are your favorite Stallone moments from the early days? Let me know. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.